ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is 9:30 on Thursday, April 21st. I want to call to order the CRA board meeting for today, and thank you all for attending. As we do with all of our meetings, I would like to remind you to join me in this commission in setting the example on civic engagement and how it is done right and respectfully. With that, let's jump right into the agenda. Mr. Cox, do we have any, well, first of all, do you have any introductions to make?
Yes, sir. I would like to introduce Ms. Suzanne Ripka. She's our new administrative specialist. She's been with us for about 4 months now, and I just wanted to make sure that we did acknowledge her. So if you all see her around, she is a member of our staff, and she is available to help if you all need anything. So.
All right. Welcome to the family. Welcome. 20-minute speech or anything? Or, we're good? Excellent. Sounds great.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right. Mr. Cox, do we have any agenda modifications today?
Not at this time, sir.
Excellent. All right. We are on presentations. Dr. Kim is running a couple minutes late, and so I thought we would just proceed with the agenda, and then when she gets here, we'll take her up next on her presentation, if that's okay with everyone. All right? Sounds great. So we've got a project status update on the South Monroe Street walls located at 1303 and 1323 South Monroe Street. Mr. Demerol, good to see you. You want to introduce the item real quick, Mr. Cox?
Yes, I believe Sheila will.
All right.
Sure, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is a project status update for the South Monroe Street walls. The property is located at 1303 and 1323 South Monroe Street. Mr. Borrell Demerol with Demerol International is the developer for the property. The proposed development was intended to be a commercial and retail and arts and entertainment destination. The agenda item at this time is provided for information only. The properties are located within the Monroe Adams Street corridor, Sense of Place district, and it would be expected to be an economic catalyst for additional economic development along the South Monroe corridor. The CAC voted 6-1, if you'll recall, May 2020, in actuality not to approve the construction or for adaptive reuse or for the infrastructure funding to place the electric utility lines underground. However, the CRA board, at its CRA board meeting, did unanimously approve June 29, 2020, at a special meeting, to approve $560,000 in financial assistance from the CRA to assist with redevelopment expense at the time for adaptive reuse of the existing structures located on site, and for $216,000 in infrastructure funding to underground the utilities. The agreed-upon community benefits included MWBE participation as a goal, at least at the minimum, for what the city requires, up to 30 or 35%, incorporating utilizing tempo, and the developer agreed to hire within the neighborhood or the greater Frenchtown South Side. So with that, I'll let Mr. Demerol and his team continue and go on with their presentation.
Appreciate it. And just for clarification for the public, this is an information-only item. This is not requiring any action.
That is correct.
Good morning. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
First of all, let me apologize. On a personal note, you had a groundbreaking ceremony last week that I was on dad duty on a 5th grade field trip to SeaWorld, and I missed it. And I do apologize, but I heard it was a successful event.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Sheila. My name is Borrell Demerol, and I'm the developer behind South Monroe Walls project. I'm here today to give you guys an update on the project, and we have great news. But before we move on to those, I would like to go through project history and how we got here. Overall, for those who are not familiar with this project, I wanted to cover some basics. Project location is on South Monroe Street. It's on 2.28 acres and between Oakland and Harrison Streets. Overall, the project is facing on the other side of South Monroe Street. We have Proof Brewing Company, and it is the first block when you come down past the train tracks and the new bridge. It will be on your left. moving forward, we have some project modifications to discuss today. After, I believe we have included these reports in your brief, but after a series of analysis and on-site visits, what we realized that the existing structures that we have on-site, they are not capable of holding additional weight or additional roofing systems that will be coming on those structures. So our structural engineers and our architects concluded that it will be financially infeasible to retrofit the existing buildings. We will completely disregard existing walls. We will need to build brand new structures, brand new steel structures within the walls to hold the new roofs and new roofing systems. Therefore, once these reports and conclusions were submitted to me, we made the decision to go with the new construction. New construction modification with this, as you see on the on our presentation, we are complying with the City of Tallahassee MMTD guidelines. We are pushing the buildings all the way to the street front to make sure that we do give this urban feel on South Monroe Street. As you see, we are going to be still beautifying the South Monroe front with street trees and overall streetscaping that will be installed. Nothing is changing in terms of the square footage or the programming. The only differences will be the patios are moving to backside, and again, that's due to the MMTD asking us to push the buildings to the front of the site and having every other activity in the back. Site parking lot will stay in the back. So this is the modification we have for this site. New construction is pushing our budget up, so our cost increase with this new construction. However, we have decided that it's a justified increase. Overall, the value of the buildings and value of the property accordingly will go up, and we will justify that cost increase. So that is the modification that we have on this project. Moving forward, here you go, the site plan. You see the buildings are pushed all the way to South Monroe Street. Parking is still in the back. On the right top corner, you will see that we are still having the green space for activities, future festivals, or community gathering. Besides that, we really do not have any other modifications. Moving forward, another picture for your review. Site will remain pretty much the same except for the structures. So the good news, our project was awarded by the local AIA chapter as it received a merit award, and this is something big for us because in the correct me if I'm wrong, unbuilt category, getting this award is big, and we got this award because we have designed this site in a high functioning way. We have designed it for pedestrians and community to come on site and engage with the structures itself. Usual real estate developments, they just would like to, I guess, just put the shopping plaza and just lease them. But what we did, in addition to that, reserved a green space, make sure that we have additional landscaping and other components for public to engage with the buildings and with the tenants. So moving forward from the award, actually I want to include one more thing here. I was just discussing this, that my architect just told me the project is going to be featured at the Florida Caribbean Architect magazine. Wow. This is pretty big within Florida, and this is going to put Tallahassee once again on the map. And having a local architectural firm and local development being featured on this magazine is a pretty big deal for us. So we are very proud of our design and our overall programming of the site. Updates, demo permit approved, site permits. I said approved, but we are still waiting on the quality control to give us the final approved. We have satisfied all of the site comments coming from the City of Tallahassee, Planning Department and Growth Management. So we should get our final approved soon. We are in the process of getting our environmental permits. and building permits are submitted. We have received the first round of comments, and we are now getting ready to respond back to the building department with those comments. Now, I just wanted to once again cover the initial approved conditions of this project. We have not deviated or modified our initial promise to make sure that we utilize MWSBE's minority-owned contractors locally for this project. And our commitment of 35% of minority inclusion is still intact. So we had our meetings on site with the minority-owned businesses, contractors. We are regularly meeting with them. We have utilized our website to post bidding opportunities for these businesses. And in fact, we are actively collaborating with them to make sure that their bidding documents are within the market standards, and how they bid, how they submit their proposals are actually in line with our standard procedures.
Can I jump in real quick? I want
Yes.
to make sure that I'm reading this correctly, and I want to highlight this. So the developer's goal for MWBE participation is 35%, but your actuals right now are 48%?
Yes, yes. Mr.
I've never seen that before. That is amazing, absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are very proud of this project. It became, for me and my construction team, it became a kind of a badge of honor, and we are actively working. It's a little bit more work for us, but we are proud to put this work in. Recently we explained how we achieved this existing number of 48%. Instead of allocating a large chunk of bids, what we are doing is we are dividing the bids into smaller pieces. And one of those is, for example, demolition. You could award a single company with the whole scope. But what we did, we started the process of chopping the demolition bid into pieces, haul off, tearing down the structures and other control methods. So we started allocating smaller pieces to appropriate minority-owned business to maximize this. And again, this adds additional hours and laborers on my construction team. But again, this is something we have committed, and we are willing to do that throughout this project.
Final question real quick, and then I'll let you go, and I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
But, so if I'm hearing you correctly, a small portion or a portion of your cost increases have been due to your concentration on making sure that you are upholding your goal and exceeding your goal of MWSB participation. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, just making sure that you are getting strong minority firms to participate.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, our project management and oversight, we staffed it up pretty much. Under normal circumstances, we would have 20 line items to select contractors. We will bundle them up to reduce the amount of management we will do.
Right.
But now we are actually breaking them apart. Again, site construction is next.
Yeah.
We could give site construction to a single company, but now what we are getting ready to do is the concrete. Because we do not have large minority-owned contractors locally, what we are doing is we are breaking them apart to concrete and the landscaping, and another company gets another, instead of just bundling it up and awarding to a single company. And that is causing us to have additional project management and contracting and contract reviews, underwriting, and so on. So again, this is not something that I brought up because we committed to this goal, and we are willing to put in the work. Moving forward, we are collaborating to achieve this goal. We are collaborating with the chambers, all three chambers. They are on board. And again, we hosted pre-bid meetings. We are continuing to have these conversations on site. In our initial commitment also included creating a arts collaborative, making sure that the walls that we will be constructing, they are going to be offered to local artists, and we are creating an inclusive art engagement locally. So that commitment is still intact, and we have actually In the later slides, we're going to talk about this, but in fact, let's just go on to that. This is the CBA Community Benefit Agreement. Again, we are partnering with the chambers, FAMU, SBDC, and OEV. We have recently given a presentation to OEV, Citizens Advisory Council, on our community benefit agreement and our minority inclusion goal. That was part of our commitment to engage with them. So we have already had multiple meetings with OEV. Again, we just discussed the bid meetings and other components. So with the Art Collaborative, during our initial project design, we had these community engagements, and the neighbors and the community said, we do not want the branding component. We don't want you guys to just come up and just push a certain model of branding onto the neighborhood and into the area. So one of the neighbors proposed that, what if we have a say in the branding component? What we decided to do, we decided to host a logo contest. We decided to have this contest and have the designers, the graphic designers come on board and submit their designs, and eventually public, as you see the chart on the left, we had over 400, maybe 500 votes in this contest. So we allowed public to have a say and pick the logo for the project. And I'm sure you have seen it on social media platform. It's a pretty cool logo, but it just worked out well. Normally, projects and the PR companies do want to have a, I guess, say on how the branding works, but we took the chance. I love the logo, my team loved the logo, and it's the logo that public picked, so everything worked out great. So FAMU Business School engagement is within our minority inclusion goal. What we have been doing, cooperating with the FAMU SBDC, Mr. Bowers is on board with this program where we are actually outreaching to FAMU Business School students. We are putting together a team, and right now, for example, their task is to get the database of minority-owned businesses and try to reach out to them with certain flyers and the letters, let them know the contracting opportunities that we have with this project. They worked previously. Another team worked on the logo contest. They were the ones actually created the contest and reached out to the community saying that, hey, Somo Walls project need your input. We want to hear from you what kind of branding you would like to see in this project. So FAMU students are doing great. This is the second round of engagement with the School of Business. So we are very proud of this engagement. They're extremely smart students, so I'm happy to have them on board. FSU School of Interior Design reached out and they said, well, can we take one of your units and pass it on to our interior design students and have them test fit their ideas? This has been a great engagement also. That's a group of 25 students. Only yesterday we were able to see their designs. Extremely talented folks there. So they came up with great ideas for the units that we have on site. So moving on to leasing, we have announced our first commitment, and that is Burn Bootcamp. It is a woman-owned business. It's a great concept, and they are going to be at Somo Walls. They are going to be taking a space from us and bringing a personal training concept there. But what I really liked about their concept is they're going to have an allocated space for daycare. So if you have a small child, you want to still work out, you go to Burn Bootcamp, you just hand them off to the daycare section. It's going to be around 1,000 square feet. They will have this glass windows to watch mommy or daddy working out. So that is pretty much their concept. I loved it. It combines the daycare and the workout together within their concept. And we selected them to take a space at Somo Walls, and that just tells you we are being extremely selective with our tenants. We want to make sure that we put the right fit in this development, and this particular tenant pretty much satisfy the health and fitness and daycare all together in one concept. Moving forward, we do have around 20, we have received around 22 LOIs for this project. And most of those, I think, we included small descriptions in your brief. 22 LOIs is a big number, quite a lot of demand for this location. Bakeries, coffee shops, retail shops. We are trying to be, again, a little bit selective because what we want to accomplish once community comes on site, engage with the artwork and the exhibits and have the festivals, they do have a ice cream shop to go. They do have a coffee shop to go grab coffee and hang out and a restaurant to grab food. So the whole concept is revolving around placemaking. We want to make sure that once community is visiting the site, they have all the amenities they need to enjoy. So I believe this this concludes overall the update timeline. Our goal is fall of this year. It's a very strict goal. My construction team hates me for it, but we have to do what we have to do. We've been waiting on this project for a while. Initial project design started in October 2019. We have come to you, to CAC, back in May 18, 2020, during pandemic. But it was very difficult to move with the restaurants and coffee shops and gathering spaces during pandemic when your banks and investors, they look at you and say, you want to do what? You know, with this money you want to get. And that's the point that really stopped us during pandemic, but now we're good to go. And hopefully by the beginning of fall of this year, we would like to deliver this project, have all our tenants up and running, and get this corridor, accomplish what we want to do with this corridor.
Couple more questions before I open it up for other questions. The Burn Boot Camp, is that a local business?
Yes.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Your actuals are 50% MWBE participation. You're utilizing the talents at both universities. You're 74% pre-leased, and you haven't even built a thing. And your anchor tenant is a locally owned business that creatively provides childcare for workout, and it's a woman-owned business as well.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
That's pretty impressive. That is a model for how we're supposed to do these. I'm done. Open it up. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm with you, Mr. Mayor. And I guess we have to be formal this morning. Mr. Demerol, excellent presentation. I mean, this is phenomenal. I mean, the vision that you had for this site, because I knew what it looked like. I mean, I told you all the other day, Bon Tai was one of my family's favorite restaurants. And I mean, just the vision that you had for this site and all of the thought that you put into it, you can tell it's conscious thought. It's not just, oh, I'm waking up one morning, I think we'll put this in, but it's conscious thought with your team and involving the community, which is extremely important in that respect, involving the community, making sure that it's a good fit for the community, and you know, in enlisting individuals from the community and designing your logo. I mean, this is just phenomenal. The MWSBE participation at 48%. And I think that, again, this is going to be a model for other developments of this sort to look at. Now, it may have cost you a little more to do it the way you've done it, breaking up the project and, you know, bidding it out that way. But that may be something, Mr. Mayor, we might, and commissioners, board members, we might want to consider as we budget, is because that is a tremendous value and return on our investment. Right. To have those women and minority-owned businesses involved, because not everybody is going to be willing to absorb the cost as you have done. So that might be something as we budget that we might want to consider as a CRA board, you know, how we can assist those individuals who are being creative in this way financially. because like I said, not everybody is going to be willing to absorb the cost like you all have done, but I'm extremely impressed. I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be transformative, this project for the corridor. And so I'm just really excited about what we've seen and heard here this morning, and certainly look forward to it. And then the attention that we've already started garnering, you know, in statewide and national publications. This is just great. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. And
Thank you so much.
Already award-winning.
Yeah, already.
That's great.
Yeah.
Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations on your success so far. I know it's been a long journey since the very beginning. And it'll be cool to be in the shadows of the soon-to-be Adderley Brothers Amphitheater.
There you go.
If all goes well. I really liked what you said about breaking up contracts. You know, we've talked about that at the city as well. We hear from a lot of smaller vendors. And for you to take the lead, I think that's just awesome. A little disappointed in the changes. I know they're driven by the costs associated with it and the difficulties burying the power lines. I really wish we would figure out a way to bury the power lines, because I mean, transforming that entire corridor, this is the first shot across the bow, so to speak, of redevelopment there, and it would just be great if we could figure out a way to get creative and start burying the power lines all the way across. The only question I have for Mr. Cox or the attorney is just process. I know it's a substantial change to what we were talking about with doing roof repair and undergrounding. What do they need to do? Is it a new application? What's the next step for them?
Commissioner, the contract does call for some deliverables. One is the undergrounding of utilities. Another is a reuse of that existing building. I understand that that's not possible now, so that would require a contract amendment to acknowledge the scope of the contract has changed.
Okay. I know this is an informational item today, so what's the next, from a staff level, are you taking the new proposal that he has and bringing it back to us, or where does this go from now? And if we are interested in exploring undergrounding utilities, what would be our next steps?
We had some, we did bring it to the CAC, gave his presentation to them. We didn't have some of the final numbers at that time, so we do plan on having it go to the CAC and then come back to you all for approval, denial, amendment, you know, whatever you all decide to do.
Okay.
But we did want the Citizen Advisory Committee to have a look at final numbers. And
Okay, so the final proposal is coming through and it'll come back through the process? Okay, and I'll just throw that out there. I mean, it's a significant expense from the city or CRA just to vary from what we've talked about just in briefing. But if there's any desire to explore any possibility of doing that, I just think, well, if the first one doesn't bury the utilities, I don't think that corridor, the utilities are going to get buried. Right. And it's such a, this is 30 years down the line that won't be buried. And it's such an impact when we look at how great Gain Street, the buried utilities there are. FAMU Way didn't get utilities buried, but it's still a beautiful road. But here's a real true commercial corridor, and it's just such a change. So just putting that out there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No, on point. I'm with you 100%. And it doesn't make sense to bury power lines on one block and then not do it another block. Look, let's take the bite of the apple and let's do it all the way. Let's get creative. I agree. And maybe at the end of this item, if you want to make a separate motion, Commissioner Matlow, I'll come back to you, asking staff to get creative and bring back ideas, working with UPI, with the city, resources, CRA, blueprint. I don't know, but yeah, I would support that. I agree with you. Let's do it. Let's bury the power lines, because that is one more public infrastructure cost that attracts the private business. Yeah, and you're right as well. Look, there's been some changes and some costs in the whole 9 yards, but I also agree with the Mayor Pro Tem. This is an interesting model that maybe we should look at how we do our process, and if we know that there's going to be increases in cost, but yet we're breaking the contracts that we have talked about to provide more minority participation. Yeah, that's a good thing in my mind.
Yeah.
So we're learning as much through this process of your project
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may, on the undergrounding utilities, the initial numbers that were submitted for this cost was also from City of Tallahassee. What we came across with, once we called them and said, we are ready to roll, let's just get updated numbers in. And that's when we came across with almost twice, more than twice the cost. Initial numbers did not include additional measures, and I believe the staff didn't really think about it that much in the beginning. They just wanted to give us an estimate. But once they actually started to go into the blocks and existing infrastructure, utility connections of the all units and how we would do that, they realized the cost is, I believe, way higher than initially estimated. I believe it will be a wise investment because we are going to be paying for new sidewalks, new landscaping and streetscaping in front of the South Monroe. And in 10, 15 years later, if city wants to come back and bury those lines, they will have to just get rid of hundreds of thousands of investments right now. And then they will have to pay for repaving it and putting brand new sidewalks and infrastructure there. So you have me willing to pay for the other costs, and I believe it will be a wise investment, but it is up to you guys.
Last question, then we're going to keep moving down. Lou, from a legal standpoint, obviously, the agreement needs to be amended. And saying that there's a majority or unanimous, we like what he's proposing as amended, we're not going to hold up the project waiting for the amendment to come back at the next meeting, would we? I mean, the last thing we want to do is slow things down just because, from an administrative standpoint, we have to have another meeting just to take the vote on the amendment. So walk us through how this is not going to negatively impact moving forward.
Well, Mr. Mayor, right now, the contract calls for certain deliverables to be entitled to the CRA funding.
Okay.
The project has changed.
Correct.
So at some point down the line, to receive the CRA funding, there will need to be an amendment. I'm not aware of any, there's not any CRA funding, and staff can tell me if I'm wrong, that's going out the door now. So I don't think this will, we can ask Mr. Demerol, but I don't think there's anything that's going to delay the project. Now, if the scope of the project is going to change, and again, this would be a question for Mr. Demerol, and he needs to do some engineering or some design work, he'll have to tell us about his timetable there. But right now, it's not going to hold him up, but if the scope of the project is going to change, I assume he needs to build that in sometime.
Mr. Mayor, we do not believe the project has changed, and the approval, CRA approval that was noted in June 29th, the conditions are within that CRA approval, and that approval calls for minority inclusion, which is intact, the art collaborative, which is intact, but initially, the initial proposal and initial approval do not put a condition on the approval that the existing buildings must be utilized. So we do not believe the project has changed. We believe that project was modified due to the official letters and the professional opinions of the structural engineers and the architects, and that was outside of our control. Now, the modification on the underground utility lines, again, it's outside of our control. The cost came back different than what was initially submitted by the underground utilities. So we have taken the approval from this board back in June 29, 2020, and there is an allocated budget fiscal year allocation by the CRA the year after. So we have been under the assumption that the project is going to be funded by the CRA. So we are going to move forward under that assumption. And we are willing to cooperate with the staff and the Mr. Liu about the modifications, bringing back to the board so that the board is aware of what is being modified with the project. But we are moving forward as this is approved and it's going to be funded.
So if the modifications are approved at the next board meeting, it's
Sure.
not going to impact your construction? You're going to be okay?
Yes, we'll be fine.
Commissioner Matlow?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I supported this project last time. We'll likely support the modifications as well. But respectfully disagree. The project has changed pretty substantially from repurposing buildings to completely brand new buildings. I know the theme and what you want to create there is substantially the same, but just from what we reviewed, you know, existing reuse, your numbers, all these things that went into our decision makings have changed. And I think just making sure we go through the process of bringing it back, going through the CAC and getting a final approval with the modifications checks that box for me, but I don't want to seem like projects can come in and make substantial changes and still be entitled to funding without going through the appropriate steps. I think.
Great. Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Let me just start first with on point with Board Member Matlow just said. The changes are changes to the good, because it would not be a good investment to have invested this kind of money into a structure that could not withstand or withhold. So I call it a change, call it a modification, whatever it is, it needed to happen in order to be good stewards of the funding. So I'm happy with that. I want to say too, thank you for being creative in how to bring in minority and women-owned businesses to be a part of what's going on. And many times companies don't do that because they're wanting to hurry up and get it done. But you all slowed it down. You kind of like done not just SOMO, but slow-mo, and made sure that you were meeting your goals. And I will share this for full disclosure. I invited Board to make a presentation to some community folks, including Florida A&M, some other community people, bankers and other folks, to just give an update on what was going on over there. Because, we saw stuff coming down and what have you. And we left that discussion with folks having ideas of how to do trainings for other businesses and companies to help do what you all are doing by breaking up the contracts to allow minority businesses the opportunity to participate and grow their capacity by being able to get these dollars to reinvest in their business, to buy bigger equipment, better equipment, and that kind of thing. So I think that from those conversations, the community is abuzz because, let me just put the G word out there. Gentrification is what's on a lot of people's mind, but the way you're doing it, you're involving the community has say, you're using people from the community and businesses from the community so that everyone benefits and everyone can be fed from it. And I think that that's a great partnership. And I love the inclusion of our young people from the universities being a part of this, because that's how we retain talent. That's how we create it, and that's how we retain it, because they can add to their resumes that they participated in this kind of project. They can drive by and say, hey, that's one of my projects right there, and that might help them get their next job for the next project here in Tallahassee. So I'm really, and I love the look and feel of what you're doing here. I especially love the ice cream, because I love ice cream. There's going to be an ice cream shop there, so that's a plus. But I really want to applaud the effort, and I've heard from some of the people who are interested in having their businesses relocated there. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you continue to go and grow. Meanwhile, there are others that are doing some similar things, and we're not exactly sure what all is happening there, other than what we see sometime on social media. And I want to use this opportunity to encourage folks, even though you're using your own money, you're using our community to do it. Keep us in the loop, us, not just the commission, but residents, people who live there, on what's going on, because that's what causes conflict and confusion, because we don't know what's going on. So thank you, Board, for being willing to bring the community in and let them be a part, because that's buy-in. That gives the community a sense of pride in something that's happening. And I hope as development continues, because it sounds like it's going to have to, if we're going to bury utility lines, we're going to need somebody to come along and help make that happen, that we use this model, tweak it as needed, because as you said, we're learning along with everyone else how this is working, because things are different since the pandemic. They just really are just different, period. And so we're having to rethink and evolve in how we do these things, and being stuck on the fact that the agreement was to use existing buildings, it's not going to fly, because once you go in there and you find out that existing building
Absolutely.
it can't sustain what you're trying to do to it, and that's just pouring money in a hole. And so thank you for being creative and being community-minded to help try to bring something to our community that we can all be proud of. And you're right off of hopefully the renamed amphitheater, people can just sashay on around and, get some ice cream
There
and
you
coffee
go.
or what have you.
After a concert.
We're looking forward to that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you so much, and including the arts. I see Kathleen in the back for COCA. I know, and I had a conversation with someone this morning who is doing some performing arts space in the area. I think this is a win-win for our community. We just got to stay woke and stay involved and make sure we get our questions answered. And thank you for doing all those things. Thank you very much.
And Donna is here with Ndamba.
I
Thank you for being here as well.
Donna, I waved at you, but I didn't recognize you because Donna is here as well. That's right.
Commissioner Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I agree with most of what's been said. I think that it is a lesson to us about, we have a lot of conversations with the community, with the CAC about what we can require in community benefit agreements. And you have shown that having high standards does not push developers away when they have a good interest and a good project. And so I want to thank you again for the presentation and the work that you've put in and the thoughtfulness. I have a quick question. Was breaking up the contracts something that you have done before or had heard about in another city or with other people you work with, or was that something that you came up with as a way to meet the goal and exceed it?
All
A
of
little
the
bit of
above.
both, okay.
Yes, yes.
The reason I ask is because since we're discussing, how we can incorporate that or whether we could, I'm curious to see what other cities or programs we could maybe learn from or other developers. And I think that I agree too, obviously and we met and discussed this in detail, and thank you for that. The changes make sense. I think they're good changes. I'm also on board if at all possible to, with the utilities, to bury those. I think we need to move forward. I agree. But I do, and I'm fine, I'm happy to move forward. But I do agree, I think just for the precedent of future projects, in this case, it's not really about historic preservation, but if it ever is, we don't want to set the precedent that we don't, when there are substantial changes. So I think getting this along with process is what we need to do. But thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all for me.
Excellent. Yes,
Just one
yes,
other
sir.
thing. I would be curious if you've had a conversation with, and I know you've worked with the local chambers, but have they shown any interest in maybe having a presentation like this done for their membership so that they get an idea of, because this is powerful to me. When and where this could be replicated, I'd like to see it happen. And I'm sure if they're on board with it and their membership understands that, this is the kind of thing that we're looking for.
I'm in touch with the Capital City Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Tuggerson, and during our OEV presentation, members of the Big Bend Minority Chamber were at the OEV, and they have seen it. Also, some of the contractors who've been part of this project they've seen what we are doing, and they are part of both chambers. So I believe the last I heard from them, they would like to go back and set up workshops about this. Because there's the other part of it, there is a contractor training about submitting standard bids, standard proposals. There are trainings involved along the way. So they would like to approach this from two different points. One, investors, developers taking this approach. Another one is contractors actually seeing what is required, what's needed to meet the standards of a project like this.
Has there been any interest expressed by the Tallahassee Chamber?
I have met with them too. Well, they were recently on site for the groundbreaking. So they are also looking into working on this project to make sure the workshops are in place.
Okay. You know, and I guess one of the things that came to mind, I don't know if it was when you all were on the commission or not, but I can remember we awarded a contract, and there was the person the business that got the contract showed that they had put forth good faith effort to bring on minority and women-owned businesses, but they didn't have any. And the question was, well, why didn't you all, it was for a cleaning contract. And the question was, well, why didn't you bring on a minority or woman-owned business to clean the windows, to do the landscaping or lawn work? And it could have accomplished exactly what you have accomplished by breaking up the task. But so, and so that issue was discussed even then, that as a way that, you know, you could encourage, a major vendor could encourage more women and minority-owned business involvement in those projects. So I certainly would be interested in seeing that going forward. Again, this being a model of how it can happen. And so I'm saying this just so that the word begins to get out, that this is the kind of thing that we're really going to be looking for and looking at as we move forward.
Commissioner, I can have my construction team put together a report and submit to CRA as a timeline and how we conducted this, and overall just present it to you when the project is finished. I could do that.
So,
Mayor.
absolutely, it's an information item only. I am going to ask for 2 motions in just a second, but before I do so, let me check in. Did we have any public comment on this particular item?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do. We have 2 speakers that wanted to speak on this item. We have Ms. Beverly Williams and Ms. Priscilla Hawkins.
Okay, sounds great. Ms. Williams?
If you would, your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes, please.
Good morning. It's so wonderful to see your beautiful faces so early this morning. Haven't been the last faces I saw last night before I returned home to my husband. And I just wanted to commend Mr. Emerald on this project. The first time I heard about it was at the CAC meeting, and it just brought chills in my soul to hear the level of commitment this developer had for bringing a project into a community that involved and encouraged community involvement. And to hear his presentation today, you know, I'm a crybaby. I'm about to cry about the success of what he has done. And I just commend you, applaud you, and appreciate him for coming into our community with the desire to make it work for the community. And my only regret, and you know where I'm going, is that he either does not have a twin brother that could have worked in Frenchtown, or that he was too busy to put a bid in himself. But I just wanted to say, he has proven that community benefit agreements work when you have a developer who is committed to becoming a part of the community and making his project work for the good of the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beverly.
Our next speaker?
Ms. Priscilla Hawkins, name and address for the record, 3 minutes, please.
Ms. Hawkins, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
6033 Button Willow. I am, just have a few questions I wanted to ask Mr. Demerol. And one is 48%, I think I heard was the number in terms of.
Ms. Hawkins, I know it's a little awkward.
I'm
but If
sorry.
you can ask the questions into the microphone instead of turning.
Got it.
Because we're broadcasting live as well.
Okay, so I won't be able to look at you. All right, so 48% was the listing for minorities, and is there a list, and I'm looking at you guys, it's very awkward. Is there a list of those that is already available, and does it include any of the businesses that were currently on that, in that area? Yes.
Work.
Yeah.
This isn't gonna work.
So I have to stay this way.
Yeah. She's asking for the list of participating contractors and minority and women-owned businesses. Ms. Hawkins, he was stating before you came in that they have been working with the FAMU College of Business to put together a master list of all women and minority-owned businesses in the area that can participate in the project. And I think you're looking for that list.
Okay, so he was saying the list has not been finalized, is what, okay. I thought that there was already a list of those that he had chosen, because I heard him say they were going to be selective. And I just wanted to know if any of those businesses that are already there are going to have an opportunity to stay, because I know that in Tallahassee now, rents have gotten so high with the pandemic, and our minority businesses, which oftentimes don't have the kind of financial wherewithal that others have, you know, will they be able to afford to get in there? Will they be able to afford to stay?
Right.
And is Economic Vitality Department helping in any way to make sure
Mr.
that
Mayor,
happens?
if I could ask a question of Ms. Hawkins, because you're asking about contractors, but then you're really asking about tenants,
Yeah.
is what it sounds like. You're not asking
Yeah,
about
I
contractors.
guess I am asking more about tenants.
Tenants,
Well,
okay, the
There's the
tenants.
first right
The anchor tenant is a woman-owned boot camp that will be providing childcare on site as well.
Right, I heard that one.
So you're talking about the other pre-leased. Yeah, I'm sure Mr. Demerol would be more than happy to speak to you about that.
Okay.
But yeah, can y'all get together? That'd be fantastic.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. Any other speakers?
Not on this item.
Okay, first of all, I want to recognize also Ms. Khan. You do an amazing job as an architect.
Yes.
You have buildings all over town, and it's a great product, and we appreciate it. And I know that's a great partnership, and you're going to do a great job on this particular project as well. We don't need a motion to bring back the amended agreement. That will automatically come back to us at the next meeting. So we don't.
After it goes through the CAC, correct?
That's correct.
Correct, yeah, it goes through the process, goes through the CAC and everything. However, Commissioner Matlow, I'll come back to you if you'd like to make a motion for in the future, an agenda item to come before this board, talking about burying the utility lines on South Monroe Street. I think it's a great idea, and I think it would be a great item for us to consider.
Yeah, I'll make that motion. I'm sure it'll
Second.
have to be in coordination with the city, but also there's a sense of urgency with this project moving forward. So
Sure.
maybe we could reach out to the city and at our next meeting. get
Yeah,
an update.
and I say we leave it kind of open for the flexibility to be able to bring whoever needs to be at the table to talk
City
about.
has a lot of money, Mr. Mayor.
Talk about the burying of the power lines, to be able to move forward. So there's a motion on the table made by Commissioner Matlow, seconded by Commissioner Porter. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously 5-0. The last one, and one that we haven't really talked about, and just out of precaution and planning. So we've got Proof across the street. We're going to have a restaurant on this side of the street, and I'm thinking about the pedestrians that are crossing a state road, a 5-lane highway. Maybe we should proactively now begin reaching out to the Department of Transportation to study the pedestrian crossing to make sure that what we have in place is accurate. You know people are going to be going back and forth across the street. So let's go ahead and start planning that now on Monroe Street, but that's going to take the involvement of the state because it's the state road. And I don't know if we need to ask for a study from the state to make sure it's accurate or an evaluation or.
I would recommend that it goes to CRTPA.
That's great. Who
Yeah.
represents, who's on for us?
Three of
Well,
us.
all three of us, yeah.
go forth and conquer.
Yeah.
But you understand what we're talking about.
Sure.
So. Great, okay, we don't need a motion for that then. Y'all just bring it up at the next CRTPA and let's see what we can get. Excellent. Thank you so much. That's great. Okay, Dr. Kim, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you don't mind. We went ahead and moved to the next item, but we're glad that you're here and joining us.
I'm sorry, and thank you for understanding. I'm joining you a little bit late, but I'm really glad to be here, so good morning. Joining me today is also Vice Chair Mr. Walter McDonald, as he will be filling in for me for the June meeting. So he is here to show that we're together and that to observe the meeting, and we'll be providing feedback to you or update to you at our next meeting. So the CAC met on March 7th last month. And our agenda wasn't too heavy, but we did spend quite a bit of time talking about Mr. Demeral's project. So I will spend a lot of time, most of my time talking about that project. But before I do that, the official agenda item before you today is the approval of the Frenchtown Community Engagement Fund, which was a procedure that was developed by the Neighborhood Affairs and along with the CAT team, the Frenchtown Neighborhood First Plan CAT team. The proposed plan really came off as rigorous and really well thought out. So from our reading, it's been designed to implement the first plan's priorities, and that the team thought through the different projects that could be proposals that could be funded through the fund. So really want to thank and commend the staff as well as the CAT team in proposing and coming up with the procedure, and want to show our full support for this the proposal in front of you. So with that being said, I'll turn my attention to Mr. Demeral's project. And first of all, we were also very much in agreement commending the applicant for going above and beyond the MWSBE participation. So we really want to thank him for doing that. And we also agree that this is an exemplary project that needs to be replicated elsewhere in the city. Thank you, thank you, Board Member Matlow for pointing out that this is a substantial change. That was a point of disagreement at the CAC meeting, that we saw it as a substantial change to the project, not doing the rehab and not being able to bury the power line. Not saying that we disagree with the changes, but we wanted to make sure that it is recorded as a change that needs to be officially recognized in the contract as well. So there's official process that needs to be go through. So with that being said, CAC didn't have any objection in terms of building a new structure. So we were okay with that. But then the power line, we were also in agreement with you all that it would be a missed opportunity not to bury the power line when we are just starting to redevelop this corridor. So I was really glad to see that the board members were also on board with that point. And then finally, the last point that I did want to make was that the point that Ms. Hawkins brought up was the point that I made in the meeting as well. So initially, and I want to set the record straight for this one. So initially, when Mr. Demeral came in last year to the CAC, he stated that the retail spaces would be affordable. And I made a comment saying that commitment should be recorded and memorialized in the CBA. It did not make it into the CBA for whatever reason. But I do want to point out that it has been recorded in our minutes as well as our recording, and but it did not make it to the CBA. I'm pointing this out not to hold his feet to fire, but we just don't want any more of this to happen in the future. If there are commitments that are verbally being made at the CAC meeting, we want to see that in the CBA agreement. And that was about, again, Ms. Hawkins pointed out the affordable rents. That's those are the main points for the Somo Walls project. With that being, with the two sort of disagreements that we had with the applicant, overall, CAC members were in support and really commended the above and beyond steps that he took on the MWSB participation. So we thank you for doing that. We also had 2 pre-applications for medium to large project funding, but which wasn't a full proposal. So we recommended some concrete actions and then asked some hard questions to those applicants to make the proposal stronger. Finally, this wasn't necessarily a item that was brought to the CAC, but being more proactive, the CAC members discussed and expressed strong interest in understanding the inventory and ownership of vacant and derelict properties within the CAC district. One of the members mentioned the program in Gainesville that targets heirs properties and provides legal services and other professional services to clear title that's needed to turn those properties around. So we would love to see the board take up this idea and perhaps direct the staff to analyze the land ownership statuses and investigate the programs that could help those properties, the underutilized properties, back to better economic use. So that was an idea, a new idea that came up at the CAC meeting. I believe that is all. Thank you.
Dr. Kim, have you checked with the planning department? I thought that we had already done that analysis in the CRA.
That was not brought up during our CAC meeting.
Yeah, we
This would
did.
have been before you, Mr. Fox.
Yeah, we didn't discuss that at the CAC meeting, but I have been in contact with the Housing and Community Resilience, and we are looking to do something with air property.
Mr. Mayor?
Couple of years ago, don't you remember when we did the walking tour with Devin and they took us to Goodbread Hills and everything? That was one of the items that actually came up on that tour, was for the planning department to identify all of the parcels within the CR. So
This is something kind of different that has happened. Board Member Richardson and myself attended a League of Cities Florida Black Caucus local elected officials conference, and they actually had a presentation on what they're doing in, I think it's Pinellas County.
St. Petersburg.
And, yeah, St. Pete and other places. And I provided yesterday hard copy handouts to Mr. Cox and to Ms. Ogentayo with contact to help clear up what others are doing to clear up air properties and cleaning up the area. So this is a little bit different from what you're referring to. So yeah,
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Do we need to formally memorialize that in a motion? Or are you happy with the direction that we're going?
I think we need to give them time to look at
digest it and maybe,
what's going on there and bring back some information at an appropriate time.
yeah.
Great.
Because what we heard from, they had the attorney there and the
company that was doing it and the housing, I think it was the housing or CRE director.
Yeah. But they were all there, and it was a powerful presentation, and both Commissioner Williams-Cox and myself sent information back to Ms. Ogentayo. I didn't send information to Mr. Cox, but so they will just need to take a look at that. Maybe we could take a trip, or staff could take a trip down to St. Petersburg and see what they're doing, but it's right in line, Dr. Kim, with what you mentioned here.
Amazing to hear that it's coming together. We would love for future investigation and would love as a CAC an update on the progress of that project.
So the Mayor Pro Tem's proposing a road trip is what I'm hearing. All right, okay, all right.
Road trip.
There we go. I'm sorry. Dr. Kim, are you finished with your presentation?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Let's open it up. Commissioner Williams-Cox and then Commissioner Porter.
Okay, listen intently to your report, and thank you very much, Dr. Kim. But what I heard was, it sounds like the CAC has already had some say about the Somo Walls project. As we were saying that this needs to go back to them and then come back to us, but it sounds like they have already made a decision.
We necessarily, I'm sorry, so we necessarily didn't have a decision. It was similar in, to this presentation, that we had an informational update from Mr. Demerol. And so, and also, I guess I should add that CAC has a hard and fast rule, somewhat of a hard and fast rule in terms of presentations that are not on our formal agenda. So we really didn't have an opportunity to listen to Mr. Demerol's full presentation. He only had 3 minutes, I believe. And so we did not take any votes or decided. We only provided feedback to Mr. Demerol.
Okay, all right. So it's like being in an auction. You got to be careful of the words you say, because it sounded to me like some agreement was made. So, okay, so I'm good with that. It goes back to the CAC for full presentation and decision. The other thing is that if we could put the presentation, put the cover for Dr. Kim's back up, the slide that was up.
Oh, that wasn't, that was Neighborhood Affairs.
Okay, the neighborhood affairs, whatever, whoever it was, put it back up, please. I want to point out the fact that that graphic was created by Ms. Ann Roberts in 2021, according to what it says here, that graphic. That's beautiful. And she's no longer with us. And I just wanted to point out that Ms. Scott and Ms. Williams and y'all, what a tribute, what a tribute to her. I just wanted to point that I didn't want us to go past that and not recognize that this was something that was created by her. So she still lives on.
So actually, Commissioner Williams-Cox, when I was at the funeral and saw it, I got the graphic and I took it upon myself to actually have the flag made.
Awesome.
Awesome. We have 2 of them, full size.
Very good.
Flags that were designed by Ms. Roberts, that we will, during a formal presentation, present to the neighborhood.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Yes.
Oh.
All the way down to we did put, as you
Look.
can see.
That's her name. Very good. Thank you. I just didn't want us to pass that moment. What a historian, what a talent, what a, just a true community servant.
I agree. Okay. Commissioner Porter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make a quick comment. It seems like the direction is clear about Dr. Kim's request that we kind of, get an update, see where we are, and then consider options. I just want to make sure that included in that, if we could, the St. Pete program or what other cities are doing, even if we have something, if there's other things we can review, I would like that to be included if possible, if that's, okay.
Where'd y'all see that presentation? Was it NBC Leo or?
No, FBC Leo.
Would somebody mind reaching out to see if they already have a best practices?
Well, I brought back the handout. I have hard copies from the presentation.
Okay.
And so I've given it to, well, Mr. Cox, I don't think you have it yet, but you're getting a copy. I've given it to Abena yesterday, had given her yesterday, but we have a hard copy as
Awesome.
well.
Yeah.
And points of contact for
Yeah,
individuals.
I had given her the name and phone number
Right.
of the 2 guys
Right.
that were there doing the presentation, but I hadn't gotten the handouts.
Right, okay, well, I'll make,
So they have the information.
That's great.
Yeah.
and we can share it, we can make sure, I can get it scanned and we can share it with whoever wants it.
Now, Dr. Kim, Mr. McDonald's a good friend of all of ours. Is it still your desire, as you expressed in our briefing, that when he fills in for you, that we grill him and give him a really hard time? And or should we just kind of
Why do you
go
have
with
to wait for the
flow, or-
briefing?
As you wish.
Just playing, Dr. Kim. Thank you. Do you have anything else to bring before us?
No, I do not. Thank you for.
You know what?
for
You're
this
doing a great
opportunity.
job as the chair of the CAC. We
Yes.
really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald, we look forward to hearing from you at the next meeting. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm going to try to move us along a little bit. We're on the consent agenda for approval of the minutes. Is there a?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Passes unanimously 5-0. We are on the discussion, Greater Frenchtown Southside District Policy Formation and Direction 7.01. Mr. Cox.
Thank you. I believe we have, I'm looking at him, I'm drawing a blank right now. We have someone from Neighborhood Affairs, excuse me.
That's all right.
John Baker.
John Baker's going to do the,
I'm looking at him, I'm like,
hey, you're still new, man. We'll give you up to a year, okay? And then after a year,
I
you got,
apologize, Mr.
yeah,
Baker.
you're good.
He's
You're good.
looking different these days, though.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
That's right. You're looking good.
Need to get that
Right.
picture for the cover of GQ magazine.
I apologize, Mr. Baker.
Look at it.
But yes, he's here to give you all an update on this project.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, board members, Director Cox. Thank you for the opportunity to present on the Frenchtown Community Engagement Fund. And yes, we too miss Ms. Roberts quite a lot. I think she would have been happy to be here last night when you all approved the grant. I remember one of the meetings, the very first meeting that she entered, and we were asking people, what would you like to see in Frenchtown? Ms. Roberts said, a museum. And I thought that was a long idea, but we're making headway. So appreciate that. Last July, you all approved the Frenchtown Neighborhood First Plan, provided $6.4 million over 5 years for the funding, and appropriated then $4.3885 million. You approved 16 specific projects. One of those projects is the Frenchtown Community Engagement Fund. Over the last several months, we have been working with the Frenchtown CAT team, and you have two of the co-chairs that are here this morning, Beverly Williams, and long time, and the Dean of Frenchtown, I called her Ms. Darrell Scott. And we have worked with them over the months to craft this program. We believe, like Dr. Kim said, it's a great program. We have heard from a lot of people and put it together. We believe that through this program, we'll release a lot of Frenchtown residents as well as business people to help to implement the plan. You know, there are folks who have ideas and may need some financial encouragement, and so this fund will allow them to do that. I am going to ask Jillian Driscoll, the lead staff on this from Neighborhood Affairs, to come and just walk you briefly through the criteria for the fund. Jillian?
Welcome, Jillian. Y'all do an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John, and good morning, board. So I am just going to walk through a quick presentation to give you an overview of the Frenchtown Community Engagement Fund. So as John mentioned, last July in 2021, this was adopted and funded for the Frenchtown Neighborhood First Plan, and $300,000 was established for this fund. And really at the heart of this fund is engagement of residents and stakeholders in the Frenchtown community to implement action items within the Frenchtown Neighborhood First Plan. So who is eligible for the Frenchtown Community Engagement Fund? Applicants can be from the Frenchtown neighborhood as Frenchtown residents, Frenchtown community-based organizations, businesses, and nonprofits. Non-Frenchtown applicants may apply in collaboration with an entity from Frenchtown, such as a Frenchtown nonprofit or business, and then non-Frenchtown individuals are not eligible to apply. And eligible projects are anything related to the action items from within the Neighborhood First Plan for Frenchtown. And then, of course, all programs and services must be implemented within the Frenchtown neighborhood limits that are established in the plan. So within the Community Engagement Fund, we came up with 6 different funding categories. And the purpose and the intent of these 6 categories is really to pinpoint what the project is related to and what action item they are going to be targeting in their proposal. So you can see those here. We have beautification, placemaking, and neighborhood image, community organizing, health and wellness, social services, neighborhood safety and crime prevention, and then lastly is housing, economic development, and community reinvestment. And for each of these 6 categories, you can see here on the chart, we have a funding allocation for each, which totals $300,000 that has been already allocated. I won't go through these, but you can see the different percentages that are allocated for each category. And for the award amount, the maximum award amount is $25,000 for community-based organizations, businesses, and nonprofits. And then individuals from Frenchtown that apply, the maximum for them is $5,000. And for either, the minimum is $500. And applicants can be funded for multiple community engagement fund grants in the same funding cycle as long as they are, the proposals are within different funding categories and the cumulative total does not exceed the maximum for the limit. And some of the general provisions for the program, this is a matching grant, so we are requiring a 10% match of requested funding, and that could be in the form of cash, in-kind donations, or volunteer hours. And then this is a competitive grant, so grants are going to be reviewed, scored, and ranked by a grant review committee, and the intent of that is to fund the most impactful grants to make the biggest impact on the Frenchtown community. And then the grant period for this will be 1 year. We will consider extensions, but the goal is to have everything completed for the proposal within 1 year. And for project measurement and evaluations, we're asking each proposal to provide 5 measurements to really give us an impact factor of what the impact is on the Frenchtown community. So we'll look at all the impact, the inputs and the outputs of their program to see the impact. And then since all the proposals will they'll vary quite significantly, that's why we're asking them to come up with the measurements. And now for the application will be on the Neighborly software electronic form. So we're working with them right now to complete the application. And with that, we're going to have a 45-day application window where folks can apply. And the first week will consist of workshops held by Neighborhood Affairs and the CAT team to walk folks through the application, answer any questions, and really guide them to what to expect in the application process. And then we're allowing 21 days for all the scores to be calculated by the grant review committee after the 45-day window and for applicants to be contacted on their status of their proposal. So the grant review committee, the CAT team will establish this grant review committee to make recommendations on funding. This will be an open process to recruit Frenchtown residents and stakeholders to serve on the committee, and the CAT leaders can serve in an advisory fashion to the committee. And then the committee's final recommendations will all go to the CAT team leadership for transmittal to the city and to the CRA to ensure proposals are all meeting CRA guidelines. So for grant fund distributions for one-time and small projects such as events, 75% of the funds will be distributed upfront, and then the remaining 25 will be distributed at the completion of the project and completion of, and approval of the final report. And then for projects with a longer duration, up to 1 year, we're going to distribute 50% of the funds upfront, 25% at the 6-month mark, and then the remaining 25% at the completion of the project and their final report. And then scoring, this is the scoring chart and the points that would be allocated for the review committee to follow. So you can see project description is 35 points, project team capacity expertise is 15, neighborhood impact is 20, community support is 15, and the budget is worth 15. So all of the applications will initially be scored out of 100 points. And then 15 bonus points will be added to the application for residents from Frenchtown. And this is going to be defined as a homeowner or a renter who has lived in the Frenchtown neighborhood limits for at least 6 months. So we're really prioritizing Frenchtown residents to apply for this program and to be active in the community to further the Neighborhood First plan. So next I'm going to pass it off to Ms. Beverly Williams, the co-chair of the CAT team, and she'll give us some final remarks.
Williams, thank you.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
I just want to say that the presentation represents many, many hours and weeks of hard work between the Frenchtown community, their CAT team leaders, and the unselfish and the conscientious and dedicated commitment from city staff to help us get through this process. This represents a community-driven process. In addition to, and this is not stated, but in addition to developing the plan and getting it approved by the community, we formed work groups with community residents to come up with this criteria that has been presented to you today. So be assured that, you know, while we have our egos and we want things to go our way, we never forgot that this was a community resident driven process, and we embraced it, and as a result, we're able to present this plan to you. And it is the CAT team's leadership wish that you approve it so that we can move forward to allowing and providing opportunities for the residents to have a hand-on opportunity to make a difference in their community. Thank you.
Ma'am, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do, Mr. Chair. We actually have one comment, one speaker on this item, Ms. Priscilla Hawkins.
Ms. Hawkins?
Name and address for the record, please. You have 3 minutes.
All right.
Hello again. It won't take that long. I don't need 3 minutes. What I just said to, stop looking back. What I just said to John was that Bond wants a similar type of program. So we're going to be looking forward to gathering with the members of the Frenchtown CAT team and coming up with a program similar to that so that individuals in Bond would have an opportunity to have more of a hands-on in that area as well. Because right now, we've got we don't have exactly what they have. And we want to be able to build on what's good in these programs. So I want to commend the folks who are on the Frenchtown CAT team and say that we want to follow in their footsteps.
Great. Any other comment?
Not at this time.
Commissioner, we'll go with Mayor Pro Tem. Well, ladies first. We're going to go with Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox, Commissioner Porter, and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you. I have a question and then a comment. Sorry. I noticed that in the criteria, the description can garner 35 points, but the community impact 20 points. To me, it seems like it should be the reverse, because the greater good is, I could write a great description, but will it impact the community? What's going to be the impact on the community? So in my mind, I would think that you would want to garner more points for community impact and fewer points for the description. And I'm just putting it out there as a suggestion or question, because in the end, not a beautiful description, but a beautiful community impact is what we're looking for.
So as staff, we facilitated their, their input. So this is based on the direction and the consensus of the group.
Okay, well, I hope you would accept that as a friendly suggestion to refocus the high points to the community impact.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to say is to the point that Ms. Priscilla Hawkins was making. It's been a while since we had the Bond Neighborhood First Plan. In fact, when we first came to the commission, one of the first things we did was to award that. And I guess I was thinking that Bond had some community engagement activities that were already going on, and that was how things were happening according to their Neighborhood First Plan. Is that not happening? Is that not true?
So when the bond plan was approved, there was a community engagement fund. Actually, the Frenchtown Community Engagement Fund, came from that idea, but far more robust. $30,000 was allocated for community engagement. However, the direction we'd gotten, from CRA then, that the community engagement fund was very tight. Only focus on the infrastructure projects within the plan. And in fact, the CAT team then subsequently voted to remove 10 grand from the community engagement fund and put it elsewhere. The Bond Neighborhood First Plan implementation, we're in a process right now, we're doing an evaluation. And I've said to the CAT team, this is a great juncture for you to go back. They have a little over $2.1 million unallocated at this point in time. And if they want to, in the second go around here, develop a more robust community engagement fund, there's the opportunity to do this. We're hearing from the community as to their acceptance of what has been done so far. Where would they like to see the CAT team prioritize future action? So in the next 2-3 months, we should have that information. Hopefully, a more robust community engagement fund will come out of that process.
So the 1.2 million that's remaining in
2.1.
Okay. Does a portion of that allocated for what happens with the Robinson store?
No, it's unallocated. So the CAT team,
Unallocated, okay.
right, so the CAT team will have the opportunity to say, where do they want to spend that?
Okay. And I want to say this finally. Based on what I saw last night between the two communities and what I'm hearing this morning, iron sharpens iron. And I think that we need to keep that in mind, that we are one community. We may have different addresses, but we're working together to make sure that we all rise. And so I appreciate if you see something working over here, that you want to apply it over here, that I like that,
Exactly.
because that's what it needs to be about, iron sharpening iron. So thank you, both communities, in all communities, because we got Providence back there. I know that we've been talking about and looking at a refresh, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about that when that happens, because we want to make sure that everybody is getting, if they can't get all that they want, they're getting what is needed.
Right.
So thank you.
Yeah, the Providence refresh has been completed. Where it's sitting now, we're waiting for the neighborhood association to give us further direction as to moving forward. But the FSU did the refresh, presented to them, and we're waiting, for direction for next steps from Providence.
Thank you.
Commissioner Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm really excited to see this come to this point. I can't imagine how much work has gone into it, both from the community and the staff. I'm likewise to Commissioner Williams-Cox. I think it's great that we're learning, and adapting and improving and making sure that there's parity should be the next step. I actually wrote my master's thesis on reform in the CRA and participatory budgeting. And I don't know if at the staff level y'all have looked at participatory budgeting, but it's something that's a lot like what we're doing here, in involving the community in budgeting decisions, giving them, decision-making abilities. And it's really cool and something you might want to look into for expanding this. It's become something that's gained a lot of ground in the United States. It actually started in Brazil and it's all over the world. But Greensboro, North Carolina has a really cool program. And I think the CRA is a really good place for this to start. It makes sense. We have districts, we have a set budget. And my last comment is I really appreciate the effort to the workshops that are going to precede applications. I think that's really, really important, because not that it's too complicated, but a lot of people, if you've never gone through an application process, if you don't know how to establish metrics, if you don't know how to do that, it's a different kind of language. I serve as a peer reviewer for AmeriCorps grants, and so I've learned very well, what reviewers are looking for, and that's a skill set that most people never develop because they don't have to. And so that's just a critical piece in making sure that this is successful, is that the community members who are applying know how to do that. And so I think I'm glad to see the attention there, because that's going to be key for making sure that the right kinds of projects, or that there's just opportunity for as many people as possible to apply. So I'm really excited to see the fruits of this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We will be providing technical assistance, and in fact, the county has been shadowing us on this, and will probably provide some sort of resource along with that, but we will provide technical assistance for individuals as well as businesses and nonprofits that want to complete the application. We have heard from, and if we use the word metrics are bad, we have heard from Ms. Scott, who said, metrics, John, come on. So we have, for lack of a better word, dumbed that down to where people can understand it. And we're working with a great team in housing and community resiliency to do the neighborly software, providing the tips and really put it in language that folks can understand. But we'll look at the participatory budget thing as well.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions on the criteria for the young lady who did the presentation. You talked about Frenchtown residents that can be renters or homeowners. Students are renters in Frenchtown. So are you talking about non-students, or could a group of students come together and say, we have a project that we'd like to apply for funding? Or are you saying non-students? I'm just trying to get clarity on that.
Right, as long as they've been living in Frenchtown for 6 months or more, whether they're students or whether they're regular community folks, they're eligible to apply.
Okay. And can an organization apply for funding in more than one category, or are they restricted to just one category?
Right, they can apply in all categories. The maximum award, however, is $25,000.
Right.
So they could get a 5 from this one, 15 from this one, you know, and but they cannot exceed the 25,000.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm again excited about where we are with this. You know, I was on the commission when this whole process started, and Commissioner Miller at the time was heading it up, working with Devin and staff. And things kind of ground to an abrupt halt at some point, but here we are. And now we're moving forward. And I think that's what all of us are excited about. This is the place where we all wanted to be, Ms. Williams, and we thank you and all of the volunteers, because obviously a lot of work, time and work has gone into this with staff. And so I'm just excited now that we're moving forward, and the residents of Frenchtown and those of us from throughout the community will be able to now see progress being made in the Frenchtown community, and it's exciting. And so we'll see where we go from here. But again, thank you all for all the work that you've done to make this happen and to get us to where you have.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, is that a motion for option number 1, recommended
Yes.
option?
Second.
Yes.
Properly moved and seconded by Commissioner Williams-Cox. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. We are on item number 9.01. There is nothing under the Downtown District Policy Formation and Direction, so we are now on both districts' policy formation and direction. New category 9.01, 2023 Greater Frenchtown Southside Downtown District Promotional Special Events and Large Event Grant Funding.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, we'll have Sheila Williams. She'll give you a breakdown on this.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Well, thank you.
This is agenda item number 9.01, fiscal year 2023 Greater Frenchtown Southside and Downtown Promotional Special Event, what we call small events, and large event grant funding. The CRA staff is proposing that the CRA board approve $135,000 of Greater Frenchtown Southside for the Greater Frenchtown Southside District event funding for fiscal year 2023. Allocating $35,000 for promotional and special event grants and allocating $100,000 for large event grants. And equally, we are proposing for the downtown district amounts of the same amount. $135,000 total for the downtown district, with $35,000 for promotional and special events and $100,000 for large events. It is intended for the event grant cycle to be about approximately 2 months. We intend to start the grant cycle on May the 2nd, and it would end June 30th, 2022 at 5 p.m. We will do our customary virtual workshop to help applicants, which should be not-for-profit organizations, to help aid them with answering any questions or helping them with the application. The applications will be reviewed, scored, and a recommendation from 3 members of the applicable advisory committee. This agenda item has been reviewed by Resource Management. Staff does have a recommendation. Our packet included 4 different options regarding this item. Staff is recommending that the CRA board selects or recommends options number 1, to approve $135,000 for fiscal year 2023 Greater Frenchtown Southside event programs, allocating $35,000 in the small event category and allocating $100,000 in the large event category. for the Greater Frenchtown Southside District. And option number 3, to approve $100,000 for the fiscal year 2023 downtown event grant programs, $35,000 for the promotional and special event grant category, which is a small category, and $100,000 allocation for the large event grant. We do this customarily every year. Doing this now will allow us to have the cycle, get the applications in, and prepare to have approvals or a disposition on not-for-profits in their events to begin with the fiscal year events October 1, 2022 through September 30th, 2023. So that concludes my comments on this item.
Recommended options are option number 1, option number 3. Do we have any public comment on this item?
We do have some speaker cards on this item. I have 1, 2, 3. We have Ms. Donna Cottrell, followed by Ms. Yazabel Rodriguez, followed by Ms. Priscilla Hawkins.
Okay, our first speaker,
Ms. Donna Cottrell.
Ms. Cottrell, your name and address for the record, please. 3 minutes.
Good morning.
Cotterell, excuse me.
Cotterell. I would love to throw it to Ms. Isabella first and then come back because she has the details on the events that we want to present. I should have spoke on 7, versus the 9, but I'll come back behind her and fill in the gaps.
That's fine. That's fine. Come on up. Thanks for joining us. Your name and address for the record, please.
Sure thing. My name is Isabella Rodriguez, and I'm at 1505 West Tharp Street. I'm here in representation as a business consultant for Indaba Theater and Associates Incorporated. I come to you today to talk about the educational programs that Indaba has put in place thus far. They have done an amazing job with youth-focused programs with their Kids Improv Day, which teaches youth how to convey themselves in a constructive manner, even in high-pressure situations. They then went on to do Indaba Paint and Garden Day, which gives students an opportunity to have a large access to large artistic forms and provides immediate satisfaction to show students the product of their teamwork. In addition to that, they've also done great work in the community in Bond, working on things such as the Black Inventors Showcase and Community Healing Days to help educate those in the community more about how they can convey big emotions and learning about the people and leaders of their community. In preparation for these small grants, I would like to make you aware of some of the things that they would like to do in this coming year. They are currently in the works of developing workshops for the summer to help students learn more about Annie and the theater production and helping put that on in choreography, musical theater, and other forms to help encourage them in putting them in ways that they can communicate their thoughts in an expressive manner that is a way to better convey big emotion. In addition to that, they're also hoping to put on 2 more productions in 2023, including Marigold Days, which was written by Donna, the founder, and also local to Tallahassee, and then 1 more production as well. So as a preparation for the special events funding, I would like to make you aware that those are things that they want to do to help not only bring productions to Tallahassee and help put them on the market and bring tourism in, but also to encourage students to take a voice in their writing ability and their performing ability and in their ability to really convey themselves, which is not only educational, but also helps with mental health and helps prevent a lot of big issues that can that occurs during youth, especially now. Thank you so much for your time, and that's all.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Again, thank you. And I have to do Board Member Diane Williams-Cox. I didn't recognize John Baker. I waved and, right, GQ Magazine. Whoever your barber is, you should give him extra. My name is Donna Cotterell, and I live in the Bond community and am super excited to be able to be bringing some of our event opportunities to Bond. And as Ms. Rodriguez said, we're looking to produce Annie in the fall. There are 2 weekends in November, that there are no football games, believe it or not, right? And we have this amazing relationship with the Dothan Opera House, and Dothan donated 4 bags of women's clothing or costumes, and they put Annie on last fall, and they said they sold out every show. So this is an opportunity for us to attract tourism as well as to showcase local talent here. And in reference to the presentation that John and his team just did, I am in communication with Ms. Perkins and Leon Watts and folks who are on the CRA staff to talk about the Robinson store as a possibility for Indaba to occupy that space in conjunction and communication with the committee to preserve the store, because I live 2 blocks away. If I was in my front yard, I can see the Robinson store. So I'm very much vested and interested in what takes place there, and what better place for Indaba to be than in a historical building where we can uplift and recognize those who came before us in that community. And I found out after my mother died, she actually lived on Saxon Street for a time, right around the corner from there. And most, my family history going back here in Tallahassee for generations. So I would love that to be an option that could be brought forth May 9th. Ms. Rodriguez is working on a plan for us, and we would be more than happy to present that at the May 9th meeting for the Greater Frenchtown South Side. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. The third speaker, Ms. Hawkins?
That's correct.
Ms. Hawkins?
Just an opportunity again to let you guys know exactly how vested we are, our working group in the bond area, preserving what we have in the area. Hopefully now some of the projects will have an opportunity to have 2 sources of funding, our new to come Community Engagement Fund and hopefully the CRA Fund that will allow some of the things that will bring our community together so that people who are living there have something more to look forward to than just the things as they are now. So I do want to also take this opportunity to just mention to all the members of the CRA and AKA the commissioners that there are a number of things in terms of safety as well as neighborhood beautification that need to go on in the bond area. We'll be presenting something asking for an increase, if you will, in the number of times bulk pickup takes place in the bond area right now, because we want the beautification, and right now the once a month or every other week pickup is not working in bond. So just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Thank you so much.
Any other comments on the promotional special events item before us?
Not at this time.
Okay, commissioners.
Move staff recommendation.
Second.
Properly moved by Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox, seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem for options number 1 and options number 3. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. Mr. Cox, do we have any other business come before the CRA at this time?
No, sir.
Okay, we are on unagended speakers. Do we have any unagended speakers?
We do. We have 2 unagended speakers, but I would like to add, we did receive some email last night that should have been distributed to each of you from Mr. Delatry Hollinger. So that has been provided. It will be codified as a part of the record, and staff will work on reviewing that information and providing response as applicable.
Great.
And then with that, we do have 2 speakers on unagenda.
All right.
On agenda, we have Mr. Delatry Hollinger.
Mr. Hollinger.
And then followed behind him, Ms. Jackie Perkins.
Mr. Hollinger, 3 minutes, sir. Your name and address for the record. Good to see you again.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Chairman and board members, Delatry Hollinger, 750 Will Street, Historic Bond Community. I don't know if this body has had an opportunity to review the email that I sent last evening, which was acknowledged by Ms. Sheila Williams. There is a prime grant funding opportunity for historic preservation and reconstruction of historic buildings, which members of the Bond CAT team, the Historic Robinson's Grocery Working Group, and the Bond Neighborhood Improvement Task Force has agreed we would like to pursue. Several of us are present on today. The issue that we ran into with the African American Historical and Cultural Grant was that we discovered the CRA does not have its own EIN number, which is certainly problematic for an agency of this size and scope, which itself awards grants and other dollars to nonprofits and private businesses. And because of this, a decision was made to go after funding for one building in one neighborhood and not the other. And so we are very much encouraged by the action that was taken on last night. And we seek the CRA board's concurrence with our quest to seek this grant to the tune of $500,000 to initiate the process of acquiring this grant for reclamation and restoration of an historic anchor in the Bond community. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, you as a county commissioner for 12 years and as mayor for the last 3.5 years have been a champion of historic preservation issues, especially in the African American community. You've been responsible for the renaming of Jennings Street to Jakes and Patterson Street to honor the initiators of the Tallahassee bus boycott. You were directly responsible for providing funding to move the historic Modern Cleaners building to Macomb Street, from Macomb Street to Brevard Street in historic Frenchtown for use by the NAACP, and later responsible for transferring this building to the organization. You were responsible for getting Florida Heritage Landmark status for the original Lincoln High School and the FAMU Hospital, and are now pushing forward with landmarking Lincoln High School. So we certainly know that given your extensive record of supporting historic preservation initiatives, that you will support preserving this bond anchor. Commissioner Williams-Cox, we've spoken with you about this on numerous occasions, and we look forward to your support. And we certainly thank Commissioner Matlow for his vocal support of this project.
I'm going to ask you to try to wrap it up a little bit, okay?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was over. We'd like to ask.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hollinger, I'm sorry. Is that accurate? Did we start it on time? I don't want to come off.
You're correct.
All right.
I didn't realize that was over. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
I just got through 2 more sentences. We'd like to ask that you give direction on the securing of this grant to continue to move this community forward. Thank you.
Mr. Hollinger, I have not had a chance to actually look at the email. What is the CRA or the city's responsibility? Is it a one-to-one match?
A one-to-one match, but only 25% of that has to be a cash match. So that would be $125,000.
Okay. Our next speaker, please.
Ms. Jackie Perkins.
Perkins.
Name and address for the record, please.
Thanks for joining us again this morning.
I have just 10 seconds before you start my time, and I think his was limited. But on the, I'm Jackie Perkins, 3437 Blue Jay Drive, 1618 Keith Street, and I am the chair of the Safety and Crime Prevention CAT team. And I wanted to respond to the issue of the money that we received for community engagement. It was only $10,000. And Curtis Richardson is the only person who was on the board when I submitted about 4 pages of proposals, none of which could be paid for because they were not related to infrastructure. And most of them were youth programming because I felt that if we could get our youth in good programming, that would solve some of the crime problem or at least prevent these kids from getting into trouble. So it's only $10,000 and it's only related to infrastructure. I do have some corrections from yesterday. I will pass those on. And since I did speak to this body yesterday about the history of our involvement with the CRA, I do want to go back again to policies, procedures, processes. I do believe that one of the things that was talked about today, we're always talking about process. And I know that Commissioner Cox talked about lack of communication, and I feel the lack of clear and uniform policies, procedures, and processes actually result in what people consider pitting neighborhoods against one another. It certainly confuses people not knowing who does what. And we want to make sure that we can, as community members, know exactly, I'd like to because I'm a policy, procedures, process, and practice person. And hopefully what we'll be able to do is to engage this body to sit down with and have a special call meeting, special workshop, whatever you all want to call it. I do need to mention that we didn't find out until this year that the CRA doesn't have its own EIN number, which is to me inefficient, ineffective. I've never known, we didn't know that. A number of city officials, even last night, said they didn't even know that the CRA did not have its own EIN number. But I wanted to talk specifically about finding a way that we can look at what are the policies, procedures, processes for the acquisition, renovation, restoration, and/or transfer of buildings and property that's purchased by the city blueprint, or the CRA, because there appear to be differences. And what I do want is to have an opportunity for us to bring the whole issue back to the board so that we can discuss, what are the processes for, especially for Robinson's Grocery. And I know that I gave you all yesterday a document that showed you the disparity. I'm all about equity. My parents fought for, the majority of their lives for equity, and I'm still here to do that. So we were not against the Frenchtown allocation. In fact, we supported it, as you all saw yesterday. We just want to find out, why there's one set of rules for one group and another set of rules for another group. So particularly, I'm asking you all to consider having a workshop so that I know and other people know what happens when the CRA purchases a building, what happens when the city purchases a building or property, what happens when Blueprint purchases a property. So the other thing is, we need to have an explanation on the reporting relationship. We were told last night by a couple of high-ranking officials that they don't know what the CRA does. We started out this process under the city. We started out with CRA. The City of Tallahassee, including John Baker and others, manage all of the meetings with the Neighborhood First Plan. But then they said we can't control what the CRA does. So especially, I'm going to close this out. I was asked as a CAT member to take the lead on identifying contractors and engineers to assess that building. I did what they asked me to. It took a week of my time. And then the board just simply reneged on that process, or at least the CRA did. So let's try to find a way that we can come together and everybody knows what everybody else knows. Thank you.
Thank you. I do think that's a good idea. I don't know if we need a called workshop. I think we need more of a town hall and go to the neighborhood, set up at Walker Ford, set up at Lincoln, and get in the neighborhood and just have an open forum, ask questions. Okay. You are correct. The structure of the CRA has changed. And it's not inappropriate for the city to now say, we don't know the inner workings of what's going on right now because they do not answer to the city. The majority of this board made the motion that this is a standalone governmental entity now. That's why we hired a new executive director, and it's under his leadership that we move forward. We contract with the city attorney's office for support. We contract with neighborhood affairs for support. But they are now technically two separate legal entities, hence the reason why you got the answer that you got last night. And this has happened in the past year. Okay. So this is a new structure of the CRA as opposed to what we started with at the beginning of this journey.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of questions and answers to be made. And I think it'd be great to have community town hall just to have our team there to answer anything that anybody has a question about.
Because my recommendation would be that, I don't shop at Piggly Wiggly, I shop at Publix. So I don't need to go to Piggly Wiggly to see what their prices are when I'm buying from Publix. And if we're going to be working with the CRA and they're making the decisions, then I'm not sure. I know that you say you have a contractual arrangement, but when we started this in 2016, all the way back, and then 2017, it was the same thing. The money was coming from the CRA. It wasn't coming from the city.
Correct.
But we still have city staff that are scheduling the meetings, determining what's going on the agendas and so on and so forth, and what can be paid for. So I think that the clarification, if there's clear and uniform policies, procedures, and processes, we know that there's a practice. There are practices that may differ from that. That's where you have trouble. So if there's, and I know that with policy, there's exception to every policy. And, right upstairs, I wrote policy for the city. And I hope that we can find a way that we can determine what it is, we can share that with the public, and that there's uniformity in the application of policy, procedures, and processes. Thank you.
There is uniformity as much as I know, and we should scrub to make sure that there are no separate policies, but I'm not aware of any separate policies that were established based on the neighborhood geography. In fact, I know that we all take great pride up here as members of the CRA of when we first got elected, even though the previous commission did all the hard work and acknowledged that, we did finally vote to put the appropriations for the Greater Bond Neighborhood Association over $6 million neighborhood plan, and that was awesome. And then I am proud that this board moved forward and put the dollars behind the Frenchtown neighborhood plan. And I am very proud that in the first time in the history of the city of Tallahassee that the Griffin Heights neighborhood has a line item in the city budget for their neighborhood plan because they are outside of the CRA. And I am proud of the work that we are beginning to do with Providence to meet the needs of their neighborhood as well. The commission and the CRA have taken great leads, historic leads in the past couple of decades on providing direct funding towards the neighborhoods. I agree with Commissioner Williams-Cox, and I think I can speak for us all. It does kind of break our hearts a little bit to see the neighborhoods antagonizing at times. And so we're going to do everything we can to keep everybody together to be able to move forward. Yes, we need to provide flexibility. That's what creates good creative government, being able to move forward. Yes, we've got great volunteers on the neighborhood level through the CAC, through the advisory councils that we need to depend upon with the recommendations, and we'll continue to do so. And I think that we're going to accomplish our shared goals. My question is that the proposal that was emailed to us last night, do we have any other public comment?
We do not.
The proposal that was emailed to us last night in regards to the to this particular grant opportunity would require at least, by my calculations and by what was mentioned, $125,000. Where would that money come from if this board decided to entertain that and move forward with that?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of options. One is utilizing the Greater Bond Neighborhood First unallocated dollars, or using money from the CRA budget. We just would have to find some in the GFS budget. So, I mean, if that's what you all want, we're working on our preliminary budget now, so make room for that if it is so desired.
All right, let's open it up for questions and comments. Commissioner Williams-Cox, followed by Commissioner Porter.
Mr. Mayor, let me first start by asking a question, and I'm looking at Lou for this question. The CRA does not have its own EIN. Is there a reason for that?
Mr. Norvell.
So, Commissioner, some of this is going to be historical, that there was a time that CRA was staffed by city employees.
Right.
I think it's just a carryover, and it's an accounting measure. I know that there has been some discussion, and an EIN is easily obtained, but I think it's just a historical carryover from an old practice when CRA staff were city employees.
Okay, so with that in mind, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair, that CRA apply and obtain a separate EIN.
Yep.
I would second that.
Second. So, and that is probably one of the items that got lost in the shuffle when we created this new entity of government less than a year ago, or about a year ago. Yeah, and so this is housekeeping needs to take place.
Okay.
So there is a motion on the table to bring back the agenda item. Of course, have it go through the process, Citizen Advisory Council and everything, come back for us. Or do we even need to do that?
No, I don't think we need to. I think we need to do that post haste.
Hold on.
CAC needs to tell us if we need.
Unless legally we have to. Hold on just a second. Does it have to go through the process, or can we just make the motion to apply?
Just so I understand, Mr. Mayor, to apply for the, are we talking about the EIN?
Yes.
Truth be told, staff can get that this week if they.
Let's do it. All right, motion on the table. All those in favor, let us take the motion real quick, please. All those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously, 5-0. So let's go ahead and move forward with that. You still have the floor.
The next thing I would say, because we don't know what the hard and fast number is, but whatever the match is, I would make the motion that we rely on the staff, executive director, direct staff, to find whatever that match amount is for applying for this grant, and let's get that done as well.
Second.
Okay. Bear with us, please, okay?
I'd second that.
Okay. There's a motion on the table and there's a second. What happens, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Let's move forward with applying for the grant. Motion by Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox, seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem. Question on the motion, Commissioner Porter?
Yeah, just really quickly, I just want to make sure, because I was reviewing it, yeah, I just want to make sure. So the application to this grant is due June 1st. So if we, that's very soon, and we're not meeting before then. Our next meeting is June 23rd. So I just want to make sure that whatever action we take today, that we're, setting ourselves up for success and that we're not going to need to meet. Again, it's not going to have to come back to us. So I just wanted clarification on that because the application is due so soon.
So a point,
Sure.
since it is a grant application, we don't know whether we're going to get it or not.
Correct.
We need to get moving as soon as possible, so there is great opportunity to be successful. And with staff's help, because we know we have grant writers, with staff help, with the group, with the neighborhood, I think we can get it done and submit it and wait for a response. Now, granted, it is from what I read, it's 500,000.
Yes.
Okay. Granted, there may be other grant opportunities that presents itself, and I would want to make sure that we leverage any grant opportunity to be able to help fund the change that's needed by the community, by the neighborhood.
Where, Mr. Cox, are we going to find up to $500,000 in the budget?
We don't need to find 500,000. We just need to do 125,000. The grant itself will yield 500,000 if it's awarded to us.
Well, on point, yeah, I mean, so I was looking at it, we do need eventually because it's a one-to-one match, but it can be,
We can use in-kind.
it's pretty flexible. It can be volunteer hours, it can be, but yeah.
Yeah, well,
125,000. Where, Mr. Cox, are we thinking?
I mean, I can find it.
Aye.
I mean, we'll have to take from some other line items, but I mean, if that's what you all want, it becomes a priority, and we'll find it.
But that's my point. At the detriment of what? What is it going to impact?
unallocated, something that may have, because we haven't seen the budget to see if all line items, there may be leftovers from some line items that we haven't used yet. So I would, I know enough about budgets just to be dangerous. You see what you have available. You're going to, Mr. Cox, you're going to know more about that budget than we will.
Right.
So if you say you can find it, you can find it.
Yeah.
So-
No,
Well, what I'm hearing is he's going to find it because it's a priority. He'll come up with it regardless,
I like
but it
that.
might impact something else.
I can live with that being a priority
Right?
because
Is that what I'm hearing?
oh yeah, no, I'll find 125,000.
That's right.
I don't know about 500,000.
Right, right. We can stack that with volunteer hours. We've already got over $500,000 worth of volunteer hours.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table to move forward, and it's that we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, so there's a motion on the table to apply for the grant. In order to apply for the grant today, we must be committed to at least $125,000,
Or whatever the amount is, that was the motion.
or whatever the amount is, to successfully apply for the grant. On top of that, we have to take into consideration that the formal report that we have, the amount it would take in order to renovate the building still is more than the grant.
I understand.
So that we would at some point also have to make sure that we budget, just make sure we're all clear with this, moving forward as well, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Any other financial considerations that we might be missing right now?
No, sir, not that.
Lou, any legal considerations that we're not taking into account right now?
So, Mr. Mayor, if I understand it, the board would be authorizing the expenditure of up to $125,000 and then directing staff to participate in the application of this grant.
Actually, I think 125,000 is the floor. That's the base minimum, and it could be more. I think that the ceiling would be 500,000 for a direct one-to-one match. Commissioner Porter, as you mentioned, with nothing else taken into consideration. We're actually talking about a window, financial window of 125,000 up to $500,000 to successfully apply for the grant.
So that's a budgeting financial issue. So I mean, that is something that would be within this board's authority.
Okay?
And I included that in my motion.
Right.
Because we can get there various ways. It's not cash. There's other ways to get there.
Correct, correct. But again, just to make sure that we successfully apply,
Right.
we need to take in both considerations on the extremes as well.
And for clarification, Mr. Chair, the applying for the grant, we're not, I don't think it's being said that those dollars will actually be used directly for, so if we are not awarded the grant, we're still no worse off than we were when we started.
And we would still have to accept the grant formally as well before. So, no, and I'm going to support the motion today. I am. Let me be clear. But I just want to make sure this is large dollars that we're talking about. It is not going through the CAC. We talk about process. We're doing this now because of the timely nature of the grant. And I think that's why you're getting consideration. Mr. Hollinger, I'm looking you straight in the eyes. You said one thing, too, that changed my mind because I know that this is a hot topic in the community. I actually spoke to 2 members of the CAC this morning that still stand firm. There is no, while there is history that took place at the building, the historical value of the building still is not to be preserved, and it is past due to be preserved with public dollars. You said that conversations between the working group and the CAC are on board to apply for this grant. That changed my mind right there. So as long as we are, and this is what we're talking about, bringing the community together, the CAC, the working group, everybody's on board to move forward with this grant. You're speaking on behalf of them, and I just want to make sure that we're clear, because that was a big statement in my mind. You want to come podium?
Yes, so I was speaking on behalf of the CAT team, not the CAC.
Okay, even the CAT team?
Yes, I can confirm that there's the majority of the CAT team is in support of this, absolutely.
Okay.
And we have a Fortune 500 company that's on board that is interested in potential utilization for, well, of course, that's far in the future, but who would be interested also in coming on board with this project.
Would you please let us know later so that could be part of the grant application?
Certainly.
I'm sure that would be of benefit. But that I'm glad that we got that on the record.
Yes.
That the CAT team, along with the working group, are all on board moving forward.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we move forward? All those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Passes unanimously, 5-0. Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Mr. Chair, and I would,
Jackie, we're going to wrap up here in just a second, okay?
I would also move that if staff or the community are aware of any other grants that can be utilized for community uplift and upkeep, that those also be sought after as well. And information be provided to us if there's a match, what that is, so we can determine if that's something that we can do. I don't want us to sit and wait for this one pie in the sky that might not happen, when there may be other
Absolutely.
pockets that we could be looking for, because I've been very clear. I've met with Ms. Perkins, and I've met with Delatry, and I'm very clear on where I am on this. I want what the community wants. What the neighborhood wants, that's what I want. I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't have an agenda. I want what they want. Because if the neighborhood is happy, the city's going to be happy.
That's right.
So that's where I stand. So I want to make that, if I need to make it a motion, or I need to just ask that any information regarding other potential grant opportunities come back to us with whatever the match is for it, so that we are being proactive and not reactive.
I agree. No, and I agree with you, Commissioner William Cox. I absolutely do. What I'm saying is that I am still not hearing 100% that all aspects of the community are on the same page.
Well,
That's why this was important, and I was so glad to hear Mr. Hollinger say that, yes, actually, everybody is on the same page moving forward to plan for the grant.
I hear you, but we can't wait for 100% because we're not going to get 100% of, we don't agree 100%, but we still move forward.
We don't?
No, we don't, because we're operating with different brains.
Right.
And so that's what we've got to do what's good for the overall community.
forward.
Yeah.
Mr. McDonald, I'm going to ask you, since Dr. Kim is not here, obviously, we took some unusual steps in regards to applying for this grant that will not go through the Citizens Advisory Committee. So depending on staff to make sure that you are fully briefed so that at the next Citizen Advisory Committee, you can update the committee on the actions that we took. Excellent. All right, for the good of the order, Commissioner Porter?
Oh, I'm all good.
Okay. Commissioner Williams-Cox?
Let's go.
Great. Commissioner Matlow?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe this is Commissioner Porter's aide, Cristela Sestanga's last public meeting with us. And I just wanted to wish her well.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Let's go home.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we stand adjourned.